Hey guys, we're the EC Twins and this is our new series, Around the World in 80 Raves. The first story in the series will be about the time we got into a fight with the Chainsmokers on stage in the Hamptons.
It was right at the beginning of our careers in the United States, and I think you all know that the Chainsmokers have gone on to do quite well for themselves, sexually.
It is important to mention that at the time, one of the members was different. You get the guy who sings and the taller guy who doesn't sing. Well, the guy who sings was not a part of the duo back then.
Around the time of the fight, the Chainsmokers would sometimes open for us and close for us in Vegas, and obviously on this occasion in the Hamptons, and they did a solid job, to be fair.
And we always had a decent relationship with them, a quick hi, good luck, and then when we come off the stage, the usual, yeah, you did a great job, yeah, thanks guys, good luck. At the time we started with our first manager, and to be fair, he wasn't really a manager at all. He was a guy who ran the recording studio that we were producing out of. And he was older, and he didn't know anything about house music or electronic music. In fact, he'd been a producer for acts in the 80s. He was older. But we needed somebody to answer the phone because we were having to answer the phone, negotiate all our own contracts, which is always awkward, and take care of our transport and everything. So he came on board. His immediate critique of us was that we were too nice. We weren't handling people sternly enough, and he may well have had a point. So he came in quite angry about that and with a point to prove.
I think the Chainsmokers were managed by, they certainly had a bigger management team than us. We had a guy who spent most of his time wearing Tommy Bahama's shirts, and he just didn't fit in with the typical electronic music manager archetype.
So he came on board and he immediately helped us deal with the Las Vegas contract, and while he was actually on the phone dealing with it, he'd slipped off a curb and he snapped his leg. He'd broken his leg and he was on a push scooter so he could get around with the cast on, and things were really starting to take off. So he would refuse to allow us to answer calls to clients that we'd worked with for quite some time who he thought was exploiting us a little bit, and he got us a proper tech rider to make sure we had all the correct equipment. I remember him saying that we had to be a little more rude, we had to not talk to everybody in the way we do, and we decided we could never do that, but we did concede that perhaps asking for more than what we were being given would be a decent idea, and perhaps we weren't being respected in the same way as some of the other acts with proper managers. So he did a pretty good job of being a bit of a dick, which is what we needed.
He felt that we were earning a lot of money for a lot of people, and perhaps we weren't getting the treatment that the other DJs were getting.
That wasn't important to us. All that's important to us is the show. But it was important to him, and again, he had a point.
So on this occasion, it was our first time in the Hamptons, and we didn't really know what to expect. We'd heard of the Hamptons, I summer in the Hamptons, all that bullshit, but
the Hamptons is known for being a hotspot for the rich and famous during the summer, and we thought we've made it. We're like the fucking Beverly Hillbillies.
When we arrived there, we expected big, fancy 5-star resorts, and instead it was kind of these motel looking places, really. So the driver picks us up and takes us to the motel, and we walk in, we're like,
we had one room between 3 of us. So immediately our manager hits the fucking roof. We're only concerned about the gig, that's all we are concerned about, but of course we're not stupid. We don't want to be taken advantage of. When 3 fully grown men are supposed to share a double bed, and I'm pretty sure that's not how Tiesto was being treated. And I remember our manager saying to the driver, he said, take me to the best hotel in town now. We were cringing in the back of the car.
He then proceeded to pick up the phone to the guy who'd booked us and bawl him out and turn to us and say, you guys do not say a word when they turn up. Don't do your usual and be all friendly with them. They're not your fucking friends. You two shut the fuck up and let me deal with this. So we're like, okay, that's what we'll do then.
Our only concern is that the show sold out, and it was. So we were happy enough. I do remember turning up. Our manager turns around and said, right, you two, shut your fucking mouths. Do you remember the club owner?
I don't know who was the club owner. I don't know who he was. We arrive at the venue and a guy comes out the venue, and I remember this guy being a very particular type of guy. He came out of the club. We stayed in the limo. Our manager got out and this guy comes out the club, and the door opened. You could smell brute, and his buttons on his shirt were down to like his waist. He had a big hairy chest, a medallion, a goatee beard out of the 90s, and a kind of quiff. That's how I remember him. I maybe
I remember him like that too.
You do remember him like that? Yeah.
I just remember as soon as we saw him, our manager was sat in the car with us, and he said, even from here, I hate this guy. Words to that effect.
Yeah.
And after that, he closed the door, and we were in the car looking through the window, could see our manager screaming at him, and we're like, oh my God, this is going to be so uncomfortable. Our manager came, got us out the car, and we had to walk past everybody with our heads down, because we'd been told not to talk to them, and we walked into the club, and we pretty much immediately went on.
Yeah, we saw the Chainsmokers and we did the usual, you know, probably gave them a little hug and hey guys, how's it going? You know, we like the guys. So we go on, we're performing, everything's going smoothly, the crowd's dancing, and you know, we're going wild, and I noticed my brother's soaked with sweat, completely soaked. I'm like, why am I particularly hot tonight? And suddenly the crowd started to leave. Just at first, one or two people started to leave, then more, and I turned to my brother, I say, look, I think I'm fucking up, man. Like, I've gone in the wrong direction, they don't like it. And I thought, God, we're fucked, we're real shit in the bed tonight. Why isn't it working tonight? We're completely confused.
And at about that time, in amongst all this, our manager's scooter kind of goes flying, and he appears to have a bunch of guys. I remember him with a walking stick as well, hitting them like Yoda. But was that true, or have I just imagined that?
He's on the floor hitting them with a walking stick.
Yeah, we think we're emptying the dance floor, we think we're bombing, now we think we're getting jumped. He's, you know, just upset everybody, and maybe the security's all teamed up with all the staff and they're just going to jump us. So we just start swinging because we think, okay, we've got to fight our way out of it, we're getting jumped.
So one particular guy was on top of our manager hitting him, and I drag him off my manager.
I remember trying to get out the DJ booth, and I still had my headphones around my neck, and they were choking me and they were plugged into the mixer. Anyway,
when we were fighting, I suddenly recognised the guys. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the fucking Chainsmokers. So I get off the guy, I'm like, what the fuck's going on, bro? Like, why are you fighting me? And we all get dragged apart. The fight gets broken up. I don't really remember how.
I just remember 100 guys and me standing in the middle like Bruce fucking Lee.
Yeah, somebody retold us a story like it was this big, you know, action movie, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Certainly was not. It was probably looked like a couple of women swinging handbags at each other, but it happened. And then we tried to play again. I think the security came over and said
the AC wasn't working. The heat had triggered the fire alarms. The fire service had showed up and emptied the club out. So that's why everybody was leaving. That's why we were so hot. And if you remember, there was that alarm going off as well.
The light, yeah.
Well, which we just thought was part of the production. It was all a blur. I don't really remember getting in the car, but I do remember walking out, picking our manager up and going, what the fuck happened? What happened? What the hell was that?
Because the whole start of the show, he hadn't been the warmest of guys to them. And he said, I don't know, they just wanted to attack you. We just constantly asked again and again, why?
Yeah. I thought we were cool. Well, I don't know. We go back to the club owner's house. That's where we were staying because the hotel were all booked out, and I'm like, oh no, everybody sat in the kitchen. And we just said, I'm going to fucking bed.
I do remember getting up, having a shave and going, fuck, are they going to attack us over breakfast? And the manager, I don't know, same thing, he just kept saying, I don't know, like he was completely baffled.
We went down to breakfast, sort of mumbled a few like, oh, I don't know what happened, what did happen. Everybody mumbled in return.
We didn't really know what to do, so we just helped the chefs make breakfast for everybody. It was like 20 minutes of whisking eggs in a room full of people who fucking hate you. After that, we just washed the dishes and
just walked out to the driver who was taking us wherever we were next, just as confused as we always had been.
A short time later, and the Chainsmokers are opening up for us in Vegas. Now, the strange thing, usually our manager was with us. On this occasion, he wasn't with us. And we asked him again and again, are we going to get attacked on stage again? I don't know. We're like, oh, fuck, just forget about it. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But hey, keep your head on a swivel.
So at this point, one member has clearly been replaced, and the guy who became the singer, he is now there in his place. The taller guy came over and he said, I'm so sorry about what happened in the Hamptons. It's actually my partner, we got rid of him. Yeah, like, okay, cool, yeah, what the hell was that? He said, oh, it was his fault. Very brief, because you're going on stage. Okay, cool, that was weird, so we're cool, right? Yeah, we're cool. introduced ourselves to the other guy, and that was that. From then on, it was like, okay, I guess that guy didn't like us and he's been replaced. So we're cool with these guys.
Several months later, we have a meeting.
Yeah, the Chainsmokers I have fond memories of. This guy I wish I'd headbutted. Let's face it, a real tool. The guy was a fucking tool.
He's running off names, and one of the names he mentions are the Chainsmokers, and we're like, the Chainsmokers?
Wait, the Chainsmokers? And he said, yeah. And we said, well, before you mention us to them, just know that the other guy attacked us, they replaced him. And our manager mumbled under his breath, it's kind of my fault. That's how I remember it, and clocking that and going, wait, we're not having this discussion here, but that's quite pertinent information. And I remember walking out this meeting with a fucking tool. And I walked outside and I said to our manager, wait, what did you say when he mentioned the Chainsmokers? And he said, well, yeah, that was kind of my fault. And I said, how? And he said, well, they just wanted a photograph with you guys. If you know anything about us, we'll never turn anyone down for a photograph. He said, well, I just wanted to push back. We were being treated like assholes.
It turned out our manager finally admitted that perhaps it had been his fault. He'd possibly overcompensated.
Our rough understanding of the event is that the Chainsmokers had tried to get in the DJ booth. Our manager said nobody's allowed into the booth while the twins are performing. The typical battle of egos, and it all kicked off.
He felt that we'd been too nice to the industry and put ourselves in a position where we weren't being treated right. We'd walk into a green room and every other act would have champagne and vodka and fucking socks and t-shirts and all kinds of shit. M&Ms, and me and Mark would have nothing.
Our manager did have a point.
However, maybe that night he just got a wild hair up his ass.
So I'm sure the Chainsmokers, or what's left of them, remembers that differently. But yeah, I think we're cool with them now.
I don't think we've really thought about the incident much since it happened, but there have been occasions where we've come across the Chainsmokers. One particular time springs to mind where we arrived at a launch of a new club in Los Angeles, and the club owner invited us to his table and proceeded to introduce us to his other guests. He said, hey, I'd like you to meet Guy Manuel. He was one of the members of Daft Punk. Nice to meet you. This is Tiga, the techno DJ. Nice to meet you. This is the Chainsmokers. We'll get our coats.
Gentlemen, this wasn't actually going to be the first story we tell you, but we thought this is a good baby step to walk you into some of these stories.
This story seemed quite harmless, a nice place to start our Around the World in 80 Raves series. We look forward to seeing you soon for another story of backstage and on the road antics in Around the World in 80 Raves.